I was so close to the cure, so close to saving my family and the village, changing the world for the better, and in doing so rectifying the mistakes I made. The storm. I didn't know what I was doing. I admit that. But I was going to make it all up to everyone. But now, all gone in fire and flame. Fire and flame. This is Red Moon Roleplaying. Things seem to be coming to an end in this awful night at Castle Wittgenstein. It seems the three of you have done your best. You've managed to save the people you came to save. Mostly. Even if for you, Heinrich, it's maybe been a bittersweet rescue. But still, there are things that were unanswered. And Kruger, you are heading in the direction of a strange green light. You can see all the others. They're not far behind you. And you're quite stealthy. You go forwards. You seem to find yourself looking at a chamber, maybe a wine cellar or something. There's lots of barrels and chests of God knows what down here. But there's a weird door. It doesn't look like a natural door. It looks like a door that sort of just popped out of the stone. Maybe like a secret door or something. It's wide open. You saw movement in this direction, and from whatever awaits beyond this door, there's a great, big, glowing green light flooding this area. What do you do, Kruger?
I'll follow closer. I need to see what this is. We don't have much time here, so before we leave, I need to know what this is.
Would you like to make a stealth roll? Give yourself a +10.
That is then 4 degrees of success.
Then you creep forward very carefully. You find yourself looking down. There are stairs here that descend into a chamber. You look around a little from your hiding position. Again, you aren't entering just yet. The chamber seems to be partially made of stone, but some of it looks like similar to the caverns you were in earlier. It occurs to you, we are quite far down now. We are beneath the castle down here. In the center of this chamber, there are a few things. On the sides, there's a table, some books, some diagrams, strange jars full of some sort of powder-like substance. But that's not what is important. What to you is important is Eltke Herzen and her associate, Heidelmann. He's got a crossbow in his hands. He's looking around very agitated, very concerned. She seems a little less so, although she does look a little bedraggled. They're both standing before something you've never seen before. It's not gigantic by any means, but it's quite large, maybe the size of a human torso, or two human heads. A chunk of something. Something like a stone, but it's glowing. It is glowing bright as the night sky. A green, sickly colour. You hear them talking a little. Heidelmann says something like, "Damn it, Eltke, we need to hurry quickly!" Calm down. With any luck, they're busy being heroes. I just need a few moments, and then we can get out of here. Warpstone intact. I was right. Yes, I know you were right. Good for you. We need to get out before they discover us. Those Inquisitors. I really don't think they were Inquisitors, Heidelmann. Of course they were. Bloody Sigmarite Inquisitors. What do?
Do I have a shot at Herzen?
It's a tricky one. Your crossbow's range is better at closer ranges than this, but yes, you might be able to get a shot off.
She's distracted by this thing that she's been looking for all along. This is a chance to stop her while she's least expecting it. I will aim my crossbow as carefully as I can, just taking my time. I have to make this count. really have to make this count. And then I will fire, hoping that I can somehow take her out and end this.
Siegfrieda, you are quite busy, but you do notice that Kruger suddenly went off somewhere, down a corridor by himself, and you notice there's a little bit of a green glow in that direction. But what do? No one else seems to have noticed he's gone, and if anything, they seem more preoccupied with getting their escape ready.
Well, I don't blame them for that, but by the gods, what could he have found to distract him? Maybe something... No, Kruger's not the kind to get distracted by something trivial. I don't know what Heinrich's doing. I think I can see him supporting a figure down the corridor, lowering him to the ground. Maybe that's someone I need to treat in a while, but right now I will hasten after Kruger in case he is in need of assistance, or maybe he's been bewitched and lured somewhere. You never know in a place like this.
Then you begin slowly making your way to follow. Kruger, you aim, you fire. What did you roll, considering you had a -10 to the shot?
That is no good, so I will utilize the point of resilience to get the result that I want. And I believe, what was it we said, 11 was the best thing that you could get?
Indeed. Making this a critical hit. You aim and you fire. You catch her directly in the shoulder. She spins round. She screams in pain and falls to the ground. You see Heidelman kind of turn and look to where he thinks you might be at the top of the stairway. He fires a crossbow bolt in your direction, clumsily, badly. It flies off. You hear her screaming in pain and going, "Bloody Sigmarite bastards! So close!" What do, Kruger? She's down on the ground, very badly wounded, but now you're getting shot at, and you do see her trying to raise an arm in response. What do?
I'll try to disappear into the shadows. I need to stay away from both of these folks. As I try to reload, but I might just end up having to run away from here, having done perhaps enough to trap them here.
Possibly. You turn and see Siegfrieda beginning to walk in your direction, a look of confusion on her face, and then you feel a large explosion behind you, as where you were is engulfed in a massive amount of blue fire. What do?
I just try to get into safety as best as I can.
Then you duck away into a corner. Siegfrieda, what do? You see your friend, there's something in a chamber beyond him, and then whatever's there, suddenly something explodes in sorcerous blue flame, causing your friend, Kruger, to duck to cover.
Is there any cover that I can duck into if this ball of fire is raging toward me?
Very easily.
How, I know this is a split-second decision, how exposed does Kruger appear to be?
Completely safe.
In that case, I will dive into cover myself, then. I don't need to sacrifice myself to stop his eyebrows getting singed.
Very true. You dive to where he dives, and both of you are suddenly behind some barrels. Kruger, you know what's happened. Something very dangerous just happened where you were, but not where you are now. What do? What's your next action? You can't quite see what's happening down there anymore, but you are safe for now.
I'll make sure that my crossbow is reloaded, and then that will take a little while.
It will indeed. You begin reloading. Siegfrieda, what do? You see your friend getting ready to reload, but you're now right next to him, and you hear someone screaming in pain down there, and again you also see this strange green glow coming from whatever's in this chamber.
Who is down there?
It's Herzen. I have tried to get rid of the wizard once and for all. It, might still work, but she's still wielding her powers down there. We might just want to get out of here.
Better to give her 2 targets than 1.
As you're saying that, the ground begins to shake, Siegfrieda. It's quite slow at first, and then the whole room begins to tremor quite violently. Like before, exactly like before. What do the two of you do? Suddenly, everything is shaking. A couple of the barrels begin leaning quite dangerously over you as you realize you're quite near quite a lot of things that could suddenly fall down on you.
I think we had better get out of here. I'll begin retreating, still trying to keep myself hidden as best as I can, but perhaps the time for stealth is over.
Then you begin trying to find a way out of here, and you dart forward a little, and a few things crash down, and you find yourself back looking at that chamber. And Siegfrieda, you find yourself following, and you see that chamber now as well. And you're about to just turn and run, Kruger. But you can't, because something that defies all explanation is happening, and you find yourself just transfixed, just for a few seconds. You look down at the chamber, and part of the chamber's walls are disappearing. Not as if by some magic spell, but as if they're just crumbling. And then suddenly, the shaking stops, and there's a gigantic tunnel leading into the chamber. Siegfrieda, you see this as well. You see that woman on the ground, and she's looking confused as well, clutching at an arrow in her shoulder. You see Herr Heidelmann, he's looking as well at this tunnel that suddenly appeared. It seems everyone is in utter confusion. And then you see movement, Kruger. There are things entering the chamber. Lots of things. Humanoid? People? Are these more undead? More mutants? They don't move like undead, though. They're moving quite quickly. They all are armed. They've got armor on. Are they dwarves? They're quite short. They have large tails. Large pink tails. And rat heads? Are those rat heads on humanoid forms? They have red eyes that seem to be kind of glowing for a moment in the dark, and they're just starting to swarm into the chamber. There's about 10 or 20 of them. What do you do, Kruger?
I cannot take those things on, whatever they are. I haven't heard anything about creatures like this, have I?
Beast men? Mutants? Undead? You're reminded of the giant rats you fought in the sewers, but that's ridiculous. They're not giant rats. Giant, armored, weaponized rats?
Whatever they are, they're very bad news, and we have to get out of here now. I just nod to Siegfrieda. Let's go.
Lady Herzen, you've got to come this way. I don't know what's possessing me. Quickly!
Siegfrieda, you just say this. What do you do as you say this? Do you take a step forward? Do you try and make sure you're still in some cover? It's quite easy. This is all happening in a chamber beneath you. But what exactly do you do as you speak?
I will step forward and reach out a hand so that I'm sure Etelka Herzen, as arrogant, as powerful as she is, doesn't wish to get swarmed by these rat people. And I will put my hand out for her to take.
Granted, you're still quite far away, up a flight of stairs as you extend that hand, but you do see her briefly just look in your direction with a mix of utter hatred, but then confusion. She's trying to reach for something she was holding, a sort of wand. It looks like it's made of something black, like onyx. You see Heidelmann just starting to back away very quickly, but she doesn't then move towards you. She just stands up and says to whatever these things are, I am of the Red Crown. We are friends. We are on the same side. I am securing the warp stone for your fellow beastmen. A figure comes out from the dark. Larger than these other creatures, but still similar. You've never seen something like this, Siegfrieda. Not only does this seem to be a giant rat, but it has some bizarre stuff on, like some sort of engine on its back. You've seen some of this sort of stuff before at dwarven craft shows, but never like this. It has a leg that seems to be made of metal. It clanks forward. It raises a large staff, or a battle spear of some kind, and it tilts its head to look at Elgar. And it says, Beast man, human thing? How dare thee? How dare thee? No beastman is Malice Manrak! And then the being reaches into its belt, because it has a belt. It produces a fine pistol, a nightmarish pistol, Siegfried. It's something wrong about it. There's this weird little green stone on the end, and in a split second, fires this pistol directly at Eldga Herzen. Her head doesn't do very well. A blossom of blood just explodes from it as she slumps to the ground, very dead. You see Heidelman just sort of panic and fire a crossbow at one of these things to then receive 7 crossbows in him as these beings fire. You see this being, Siegfrieda, say,
Yes, yes, secure Warpstone, clan rats. Malice Manrak victorious this day, yes, yes, yes.
And then the being looks at you. What do you do, Siegfrieda?
I take one look and then turn and run. This has escaped any possibility of my controlling the situation.
That seems logical. You turn, you flee. Kruger, you saw this all as well. You wanted to run earlier, but you saw all this. What do you do?
Well, it's time to go. We just have to go. We can't stop this.
And you turn and run. As the pair of you run, you hear that thing's voice echoing behind you.
Yes, yes, scamper, flee, human things. Scamper, flee, for Malice Manrak is victorious this day. But Malice Manrak, merciful, give you 5 minutes. Now secure the Warpstone!
And then you are running down the corridor. As the castle begins to shake once more, Heinrich, you're not sure what's going on. You think your father, whatever this thing is dead, although the others aren't. You feel a hand on your shoulder. Joseph, he's kind of looking at you. He looks confused at first, and then he just looks to the cell and then frowns, and he just says, We need to go, lad. And then you feel a tremor in the ground. What do you do?
I appreciate Joseph attempting to be supportive in this moment, but there's no time for that. There's a clarity and a fury in Heinrich that needs to stay inside of him. And if I open my mouth to speak to Joseph, it's not going to be pleasant for either of us. So the ground trembling, Joseph here, there are a million reasons why this is not the correct place to process or talk about anything that has happened. So I am more than happy to find the next descending staircase and get the fuck out of here.
Heinrich, you think to yourself it's time to get out of here, and you begin moving, but then, again, the place trembles very violently. You're a bit confused. This doesn't make any sense. You suddenly notice that everyone's struggling to stand. The place is beginning to shake. And now it's quite consistent, quite violent. You begin to feel dust falling down on you as the rafters begin to look loose. And then, as you begin running, you see Joseph turn and trip. And he does, he falls to the ground. And then, suddenly, you see, in between you and him, you've just passed one of those corridors, and standing before you is a very large ogre. He's staring at you in bewilderment, this 8-foot-tall beast of a creature, and he simply says, Prisoners! Prisoners escaping! And he begins to charge at you, and as he does, you see Joseph just sort of give you a look and barrel forwards. What do you do?
He's barreling forwards towards the creature or towards the corridor?
Towards the creature. You turn, everything is happening so quickly, and you see just above this creature, the ceiling looks like it's about to give way. What do you do?
Oh, God. I can see what's happening. Oh, you big fucking idiot. Not clear whether it's the ogre or Joseph that I am referring to. He is a broad-shouldered and big man, but only one of us has been training as a duelist for the last few years. Suffice it to say, he has also not been climbing up walls and battling chaos creatures, I know that I'm faster, and I know that I'm more fit for him. And with what remains of my father left to decompose in this Sigmar forsaken place, I am not going to let him martyr himself as well. So I'm going to charge off after him with the hope, God, I like running to him. I want to knock him to the floor so he can't do the dumb thing that he is trying to do. And then, if the pistol is still loaded, you mentioned that the rock above this ogre is already kind of starting to shake. And I'm wondering, thinking, I don't know if it'll work, if I can fire a black powder shot into that broken masonry and give it what it needs to crumble.
That would be easy. The challenge will be the athletics roll to carry all this off and not get hurt yourself. So please make your athletics roll as you try and dart forward, stop Joseph doing what he's about to do, turn, fire, but then avoid getting caved in yourself, because when that ceiling comes down, you think it's going to come down hard.
Oh, here we go. Oh, okay, well, that's a 100. I'm going to spend a point of fortune to try that again.
Please do.
Much better. That is a 13.
You dive forward, you collide with Joseph, you kind of throw him to the side. He says, "Boy, no!" And it's too late for him to stop you. You walk forward, you aim your gun, you fire. You see this ogre just charging down what remains of this corridor with a large club, and the ceiling begins to fall away, colliding very quickly onto him. But you then realize, one more athletics roll. You need to now dive out of the way. You look and see Joseph. He's going to be fine. He's looking at you. He's screaming. You see lots of people looking confused, and you just feel that weight of the ceiling coming down right behind you.
Oh, momentum went too far. Got a springing reverse leap. I know how to do it, but I've never had to do it under this pressure. 43 under 52.
You dive forwards just as that ceiling comes down. You feel Joseph pull you up. He looks annoyed, but relieved. However, the shaking isn't stopping. It's still happening. Siegfrieda and Kruger, you find the others. Everyone's looking very confused. You turn to see corridors are starting to fall down. For a moment, you see Heinrich look in deadly danger, but he's okay. And everyone's just starting to run down these stairs. You see Sigrid just come towards you, Kruger. What's happening?
We have to get going. This place is coming apart.
Yes, in more than just physical ways. Let's go, let's get going.
She looks confused and then just nods as she begins heading down that stairway. What do the three of you do? It seems everyone who's still here, prisoners and the remains of your new friends, are all just darting down this stairway as the castle is starting to come down. It's just shaking so violently. This makes no sense. How can a structure like this shake so much? Is this some sort of earthquake?
I'm assuming that Heinrich is well bringing up the rear, so it's going to be on one of the two of you to lead it somewhere.
Well, there's only one way, and that's down.
Seems counterintuitive to keep descending, but there's no other way, so...
Indeed, we just have to keep on going.
Yeah, let's move at speed, and I call out to everyone, the various prisoners that are shambling around here. You need to move fast, no lingering. Carry anyone injured. Don't let anyone try to carry themselves if they are wounded. They need help. This place is about to collapse.
You all begin heading down the stairs rapidly. Down and down you go, feeling the shaking. It starts to not feel so bad where you are, but above you, well, it's still happening quite badly. You all begin to find yourselves in a large underground cavern. For a moment, you're quite concerned. But then you see that this cavern has a large gate and water. And it quickly occurs to you, of all people, Heinrich, the river Reik. You're down. You're by the river Reik. This must be a harbour or a boat place that leads out straight to the river. You've just got to get out. You see down here a couple of dead guards already taken care of by your friends. Most people are starting to run towards the boats. Your mother just gives you a look for a moment, Heinrich. She looks confused, but then sensing the urgency, she just yells out to people, "Everyone who can hold an oar, head to my boat, the Dove!" And then Joseph says, "Aye, and the Barey, start boarding the boats!" What do the three of you do?
I'm a riverman before I was a duelist, so considering there's nothing here to stab, there's definitely people to get on boats and then mooring to unfold. So I'll stow the sword away and then immediately set about preparing these vessels for travel.
Heinrich, you dart forward, you get on those boats, you start getting them ready for travel. Already some people are getting the gates open and the exit is revealing itself. But again, the castle is shaking so badly. Bits of rock, bits of masonry are beginning to crash down all over the place. Kruger, what about yourself?
I'll just do whatever I can to help any of the injured, anyone who's falling behind.
And you do so. You're doing quite good. Siegfrieda, you're about to do your best when there's another violent shake and you suddenly find yourself just thrust backwards. You fall to the ground. You're not hurt, though. A large bit of rock suddenly separates you from some of the others, but you can see a way to them. It's not that difficult. And then you notice you're not alone. Standing next to you, not too close to you, just starting to come down the stairway you just exited from, Lady Marguerite von Wittgenstein. She's staggering. You immediately can see she has suffered a horrific burn, bleeding heavily from it. She's looking around confused. Everything seems to slow down a little, Siegfrieda, for a moment. It's a little strange. You're aware things are urgent, but suddenly time just slows. She looks at you. She looks at the others, everyone getting ready to escape, get out of here. You've brought down my home, Siegfrieda. There's... She looks upwards. No time. No one can get out. Why? Why, as a doctor, did you, when everyone could have lived, why did you choose death?
I will not be made to feel guilt for the crimes that you and your family have wrought, and your misguided attempt at a cure, stitching together beasts, mutants, humans, the entities you have no doubt consorted with. No, I am not going to feel any guilt, any sympathy, any pity for you. You can stay here in your crumbling fortress, or you can come with us, but whichever you choose, as far as I'm concerned, this punishment is of your making.
But everyone would have lived, Siegfrieda. Everyone. No one would ever die again. Why was that a bad thing?
I'm shaking my head, waving my hand. I've really heard about enough from you. And if you try convincing me of your eternal life utopia again, I will make sure that you cannot speak of it again.
She laughs, but it's not a jovial laugh. It's a desperately miserable laugh. She takes a step back. Some stones fall between you two. She sighs. All for nothing, then. Huh. And even you didn't understand. I thought you would. I thought you'd understand. I wish my sister was here.
Come on, everybody, let's go.
The ground shakes, and some stones fall between the pair of you. And Siegfrieda, you begin to make your way forwards. What are the three of you doing? For a moment, you think you see Siegfrieda talking to someone at the stairway, but then there's a lot of stone, and the whole place is starting to shake very violently.
Just have to get out of here. I just continue helping people and moving forward as quickly as is possible.
The three of you begin making your way onto the boats. All around you, the water begins to churn, the very cavern itself shaking violently as more and more of it starts to come down. You hear Joseph bellow out to everyone, "In the name of Sigma, all of you, row! Row for your damn lives!" What do, Heinrich? You are aware of what's happening here. Whatever's going to happen to this building, if you're not far away from it, whether you're on the water or not, you'll be in a lot of trouble. You need to row and be far away quickly, lest the waters take you down.
Oh, that's why you find me on the oars. Once the lines are cast and we can maneuver this barge, I think Heinrich would have found the skinniest prisoner or person here who thought they should be on the oars, fixed that misconception for them, and then with feet anchored in the well of the seas, strain against that with all his might.
And you begin straining and rowing those oars. What about you, Kruger? You find yourself seated down and handed an oar.
I will do just that. I can do this. I'll row. Row for all I'm worth.
Siegfrieda, what about you? You're given an oar. You're told to row.
I will pull as well. I may not have the strength of my companions, but I'll give it a good shot.
Did everyone roll an athletics check, please?
Oh, I succeed. I get a 25.
I get a 2. That's 4 degrees of success.
I got a 50, which is enough to pass.
All three of you row for your lives. The boats begin rapidly moving out from this area. You find yourself back outside into the storm. It's not abated, it's still the middle of the night. Wind and rain and lightning fill the air as you begin churning away from this castle as quickly as you can. Then you hear a loud crumbling sound. You all turn. The sight you're seeing isn't possible. It's not that the castle is just falling down. That would make sense. But instead, it's like it's imploding straight down. You see these weird green explosions suddenly. And the entire castle, the foundations, the castle itself, all begin just descending downwards in a very condensed, controlled way. It doesn't seem real. And not just the main castle, and not just the outer bailey, but the inner bailey as well. Literally, a small section of the very mountainside is just coming down. How are you all dealing with this mentally?
I think in the moment, all I can think of is rowing and of getting as far away from this place as possible. I saw what happened to Herzan and those things that appeared. I just want to be as far away from that place as is humanly possible.
And row you do. Heinrich, you feel pressure. The boat begins to lift. The water, the waves. Everyone takes a deep breath. Heinrich, you're a boatman. You know what's happening. There's nothing more you can do. Your boat will either, by the grace of the gods, crash into the sides of the riverbank and be instantly consumed, or you'll move forwards and be safe. But in these seconds, no boatman can do anything. How are you feeling?
I don't know if feeling is the right verb for it, honestly. The helplessness replaces adrenaline. It's like you draw back an arrow and you shoot, and then you wait, and there's nothing to be done until it hits or misses. And that's where Heinrich is, just aloft, waiting to see. And in that, the void of nothing to think, nothing to act, it's just time for him to be swallowed up by the events inside. There was comfort, I suppose, in having being able to put that rage into the oars to create motion in a moment that has felt so stagnant. But with everything clear and the world ready for a coin flip to see whether we die here under a landslide or get carted off by the gods, just the weight of everything else, like the mountain, falls metaphorically upon me. And so as everybody else is scrambling or waiting, Heinrich is just staring down at his boots.
Siegfrieda, the world tilts unnaturally. It seems like maybe the world's ending. And for a few seconds, you are completely at the mercy of the gods. How are you feeling?
Resigned, deflated, not at all satisfied, not at all victorious or triumphant. I don't think this has been a victory for many people other than the individuals you rescued. I am not feeling guilt. I will not allow myself to feel guilt. Marguerite was a demented fool, corrupted with all kinds of evils, and it was just like her family to blame us when her time came. So no, I don't feel guilt for any of this. This would have happened whether we were here or not. I feel like our presence has been to observe, to witness, to tell others what these Wittgensteins did, what they brought into the world. If there's any positive that we can take from this, it's that innocents were rescued, that Wittgendorf has a chance to heal, albeit a slim one, and that we can pass the word on to others that a great eruption of chaos, this warp stone, now that we have a name for it, has been claimed by rat people. We may not be believed, but that's what we have to do. So there's no sense of joy, but there is a sense of purpose. And as for whether we are consumed in a tempest or a landslide or any other natural disaster, there's a part of me that thinks, well, wouldn't that just be great after everything we've been through? But there is a small flicker of optimism. If the gods intended for us to capsize, to die, they have had many opportunities up until now to make a roof fall upon our heads or the floor open up beneath us. For now, I think we will make it.
And just like that, those seconds pass, and your boat does not collide onto the riverbank. It does not dip below the wave. It rides the wave, as a good boat should when you've all rowed hard enough, and instead both the boats begin rapidly flowing down the river Reik as you begin closing distance from this place. Again, you look behind you, and just like that, the entire castle is gone. The whole area is gone. It's now just a crater already beginning to fill with water. And your boats sail along a little, and the rain begins to ease, and for a moment there's just silence. And then the boats move along a little. Wittgendorf itself probably a few minutes away, considering how quickly you just descended down the river. And Sigrid just sort of stands, looking a little confused, and looks to the three of you. I don't know what you three did. How did you bring the whole castle down?
I don't think we can take credit for that. There was something that opened up down there, a tunnel of sorts. There were creatures I've never seen before. They had something with them. I think that's what caused it. It destroyed everything, and we were lucky to get away with our lives. I have a feeling, though, that this isn't the last we've seen of those things. Although I hope it is.
Sigrid looks a little speechless, and then Hilda shakes her head, getting up. It looks like she's suffered a bit of a wound to her eye, but otherwise none the worse for wear. Now, we don't need to be talking like that. I know exactly what happened, and we all do. Sigmar's chosen smote those bloody chaos necromancer bastards straight to the void. Isn't that right, Heinrich? We all felt that Sigmar had abandoned us here, but he hadn't. He sent these three heroes, and look, just like that, they brought down the whole thing. And everyone begins murmuring and saying, Sigmar, yes, praise his name, praise Sigmar, praise Sigmar, praise Sigmar. And everyone begins lifting their hands in joy, a tired joy, but a joy, a religious zealot-like joy, praising the name of Sigmar. And you, Heinrich, start getting lots of congratulations and cheers behind you, even though you see Joseph and Walder and Grim and your mother not quite so happy looking as they look at you. How do you respond to this?
I don't. It's... let them have their joy. I'm not going to take it away from them. But if they're looking for a rousing speech and a sign from the gods, they're not going to find it in Heinrich's shelf.
It doesn't seem they need you to make a speech. They all are quite happy with this story. The story. And how are you feeling, Kruger? It's over. You've said your piece. Sigrid does give you a bit of a look, and Rena just quietly says, like, we're all alive. Maybe less about monsters. I'm sure they must have been taken out as well. Look, they're all, nothing could have survived that.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Yeah, I suppose you're right. We're safe. That's the only thing that matters. We're all safe. You found your sister. And we can all go back to our lives now.
Huh. Well, yes, although I don't know exactly what happens next. And Sigrid comes over to you, Sigfrida, and just nods and says, I'm not entirely sure that's how things went, but maybe that's best for them all to think. But I do know this. I saw enough evidence up there. We all thought they were corrupted by evil, and they were. All this was just for carnage, violence, and misery, for the dark powers. So thank you, you three. Thank you for stopping this and saving us from such evil. And then someone you haven't seen before, maybe one of the prisoners, just comes and nods like, yes, it's all true. She kept saying things like cure and science, but we all knew those were words for chaos. And there's murmurings of agreement. How are you feeling, Sigfrida? You just said your piece, and yet you remember what she said. Why didn't she seek out help? Why didn't she stop all this? And now here are people saying science and cures are other words for chaos. They seem happy, though.
I am embittered. She has done more harm to medicine and science in this place than any Bogenhafen chaos cultist could have done. And I am torn. I feel like I have a responsibility to these people as a physician to treat them, to help this place recover. But there's a larger, more festering part of my psyche that says I want to turn my back on Wittgendorf and never return. I think as much as my loathing of so much right now may well eat me alive if I leave and allow it to keep gnawing away, it will only do it faster if I stay here. I don't speak to anyone, any of the celebrating citizenry. I stick to Kruger and Heinrich, keep my head low, my gaze cast down. I count down the minutes, the hours, the days before we can leave this place and never return.
One last thing echoes in your mind, Sigfrida. And it's maybe not your mind, but that little voice in the back of your head, the voice that once read a book and said, but in the right hands, this is just knowledge, and it is actions that make it good or evil. Her last words, don't you understand? I thought you would. From a purely analytical point of view, do you understand what was happening? Was it really just chaos and necromancy? Maybe she was lying, but she said it wasn't. Science only, apparently.
I shake my head and have a little cry to myself.
And so the boats begin, slowly making their way back to Wittgendorf. All three of you are exhausted beyond belief. Kruger, what are you thinking? You don't know exactly what's going to happen next. You're not entirely even sure what happened here, really. Although, you do think you'd be very surprised if somehow Eltger Herzen was still alive. You saw her head explode. And whatever that thing was, that green, mysterious thing, you don't think it's here anymore. But what are you thinking of the future, and how are you feeling before exhaustion overcomes you?
I helped my friend. I helped Rena find her sister. And we got them out from there safely. We saved the people who had been captured. we did good, and we stopped some demented experiments. We are heroes. We are making a difference. And while shooting Elgarzen in the back might not have been the most noble thing to do, it was sufficient, and it did prevent her from, I don't know, utilizing that thing to do something even worse. It could have been even worse, yes, it could have been even worse. I stopped that. I put a stop to that.
And what are the things you saw? They couldn't have been... They must have been beastmen, right? Or mutants. But you'd never seen beastmen or mutants like that. It called itself Malice Manrak. The name almost sounds ridiculous, if the thing hadn't been so terrifying.
Yes, but it was real. I know that it was real. And, as I said, I don't think this is the last we've seen of them. They were there with some kind of purpose. Something bigger. There's something bigger afoot here. And if my special destiny is still, well, if I still have a role to play in this story, then I'm sure we will meet again. And all of this will make sense. It will. It has to.
Heinrich, you are tired. Very tired. But your mother clasps your shoulder and brings you in to embrace you. What are you thinking of the future?
It's so much responsibility. It was pleasant, actually, escaping the responsibilities of Bard's life, of having a family, literally and figuratively. And before I got on the damn carriage, it was only me and my skills and my actions and my consequences, and there was nothing else that needed to be accounted for. And then, a month, 2 months later, it's all chaos sorcerers and collapsing mountains and bizarre stones. There are stories about that. They always leave your family out of them. And so for all the heroism people think that was displayed and all the saving and whatever, it doesn't quite matter. Because the two people who I was supposed to be responsible for in the way that people talk about family and who you owe what, was only able to get half of them out. And I suppose for many people in the Reich that would be cause for despair, and they would spiral off into God knows what and end up drunk in a gutter, breathing in the miasma and all that. But all that I can think about is how the suffering that I have inflicted upon the forces of chaos in this world is not equal in weight to the suffering that they have inflicted upon me. And there are a whole host more creatures and sorcerers who I will need to put to torch or sword before I feel like the debt they have incurred by killing my father has been paid.
Do you lean into your mother as she tries to embrace you?
I do, but it's not for me. We've been apart for quite a long time, and I'm not the little boy Heinrich who she saw and sent away. It's not the naive duelist anymore, right? So I'll give her what comfort I can, because a son owes that to his mother. But my thoughts aren't here with her as those seconds tick by.
Siegfrieda, those tears fall down your eyes, and you think soon sleep will overcome you. One last thing, just at the back of your mind, flitters through. It's an odd thought, really, despite everything. The words of that silly young girl. Not Lady Marguerite, the other one. She said she had a dream. At the end of that dream, she was buried alive. It seems she had a gift for prophecy. With that in mind, how are you feeling? And what are you thinking of the future for now?
Whatever the future brings can't be any worse than what we're facing in the present.
And so, the rain begins to ease off, and your 2 boats slowly begin to dock back in the little village of Wittgendorf. Who knows what the future has in store for Wittgendorf? Who knows what the 3 of you will even do next? But for now, you are at least alive. And a new dawn will soon be coming.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the legendary campaign The Enemy Within for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition, published by Cubicle 7. In the second part of the series, we are tackling Book 2, Death on the Reik. Joining us as players in this series are none other than Aaron Hammonds from Queen's Court Games and our dear friend Matthew Dawkins. The music was made by Flowers for Body Snatchers, Wordclock, Metatron Omega, Aegir Sonus, Epicryphus, Halgrath, and Northumbria, featuring a number of collaborations with other artists, and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We'd like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Antxon, and Graham Barey for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, this show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember that Skaven are definitely not real.